Let's do some signing day superlatives from the 2023 class. I'm going to give you a list of decommitments or flips. I want you to pick your favorite here, most shocking. Pick your most shocking flip. Dante Moore flips from Oregon to UCLA. That was a big one. Peyton Bowen flips from Notre Dame to Oregon and eventually to Oklahoma. Cormani McClain flips from Miami to Colorado. And then Jaden Rashada flipped in the middle of the night in November from Miami to UF. Chad, all memorable recruitments. Which was the most shocking to you?
I have to still say Cormani McClain, just when he didn't sign during the early signing period and started kind of putting things together that we heard obviously pretty quickly Colorado was involved. I have to go back to that because obviously we heard, I think Bowen is probably the least surprising, least shocking.
Right.
I think for 6 months we did not think he'd end up at Notre Dame. Obviously, it was kind of a little bit crazy with Oregon to Oklahoma, but I would have to go with Cormani McClain.
Yeah, I got Cormani or Dante Moore. Both those kind of came out of nowhere for me. Let's talk about the class with the most underrated talent. That goes to the Florida Gators. Tell me about Eugene Wilson, Jakeem Jackson, and Kelby Collins.
Well, I mean, just quickly, Eugene Wilson, speed to burn. Obviously, I think he'll fit right in at the University of Florida's offense, playing fast, can stretch the field, can take the short pass and make a big play. Kelby Collins was a huge get for Florida going into Gardendale, Alabama, a kid that Alabama wanted, a kid that Georgia wanted, and beating out the in-state school and major SEC powers. And he's a guy that can move around along the defensive front, can play outside, inside, can play the run, can rush the passer. And then I think one of the most, I don't want to say unheralded, but, a guy like Jakeem Jackson, I think should have been talked about more. I saw him play multiple times, and I had coaches in that area that played Osceola were telling me just how good this kid was and wasn't talked about maybe as much as Cormani McClain, and maybe he should have been in that same group. I mean, he played offense, defense. He's physical, returns punts. I love to get for Florida on the defensive backfield side with Jakeem Jackson.
Best receiver room goes to none other than Ohio State. It feels like we could do this every year, but in 2023, they really signed a special class with Noah Rogers, Carnell Tate, and Brandon Inniss.
Yeah, I think you got to put, Bryson Rogers in there too. I mean, he's another kid from Florida, a quartet, not just a trio, but you're talking about Brandon Inniss, who I think is one of the highest floor kids in this country that will come in, can run great routes, very dependable, catches everything, physical, and just makes plays. Carnell Tate, exciting, deep threat, body control, makes the big play. Noah Rogers looks like a grown man playing on Sundays right now, that can come in and play inside, outside, be that next Marvin Harrison, move around, create mismatches, and be a freak of nature. Then Bryson Rogers coming up from Florida as well, a kid I saw at OT7, a kid I saw last spring, can stretch the field. He's long, big catch radius. So again, Brian Hartline still coaching receivers, moving up to the OC position, has a lot of toys to play with at wide receiver in Columbus.
Best defensive class in America goes to Alabama. Chad, if you look up and down this list, you can't go wrong, but look at the top. I mean, Keon Keeley, Caleb Downs, Desmond Ricks, James Smith, Quay Rousseau. Is this just not the best defensive class in America?
This is just Nick Saban mic dropping right now. I mean, look, he's a defensive-minded head coach. I mean, just like you said, one after another on that list. And I've said for about, a year and a half, 2 years, I think Caleb Downs may be the best football player in America, maybe the most college-ready player in America. That kid can do it all on the back end of the defense. He took his team to a state championship this year at Mill Creek in the state of Georgia. Then you had the package deal of Quay Rousseau, a nasty edge rush guy from Montgomery Carver, then James Smith, who I think is one of the most athletic big men on the defensive line in this class. Keon Keeley, a top 2 player in America for us on 3 out of Tampa, Berkeley Prep High School down in your part of the country, Josh, where you're from, an elite freak off the edge, super long arms, natural athlete. Then they closed things up right before Christmas on December 23rd with 5-star Desmond Ricks, or elite cornerback Desmond Ricks, who everybody thought LSU, Bama swoops in late, takes him away from the people in Baton Rouge, and just kind of close out and put a bow on that elite, memorable defensive class this cycle.
Yeah, Bama gonna Bama. All right, best offensive class in America goes to Texas, starting right at the top there with Arch Manning. They also land the number 1 running back in America, Cedric Baxter, Jonte Cook, and DeAndre Moore, 2 burner wide receivers in that class as well. Tell me about Texas's offensive class.
Firepower, man. I mean, Sark's known as an offensive mind. I mean, he's going to get his offensive guys 100%. Guys want to play for him. He's creative. He throws the ball. He puts guys in position to make plays, and they recognize that. And as big as, I think, Arch Manning, obviously the Manning name, the Manning brand, it was huge for Texas. I mean, I love to get a Cedric Baxter going into Florida, beating out his dream school, Florida State. He committed early to a guy like Jimbo Fisher when he was there at Florida State early in the process. A&M tried to swoop in and get involved there. Texas held off for the number one running back in the country, and I think that was huge. Obviously, when you get a guy like Arch, guys want to play with Arch, and that's Jonte Cook coming from Texas. DeAndre Moore, they flipped late, was a Louisville commit. Like you said, speed guys that can play slot, guys that can play outside. But again, I think offensive firepower going to Austin this cycle.
No doubt. It's going to be exciting. All right, deepest class in America. This is a coin flip. Alabama or Georgia? Who you taking? Or both. You can take both.
I mean, you can't go wrong with either or, but I think you have to lean maybe towards Alabama, just being on top with the over half a dozen 5-stars. I mean, obviously Georgia, we talked about this yesterday. I mean, in a normal year, Georgia probably finishes number one, but Bama had a different year. They had an A&M type of year a year ago with an elite class, and Georgia and Bama both have extremely deep classes full of playmakers on both sides of the ball. But if I had to go one way, probably give Bama the edge.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me, and remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.